All right, I guess I'll get started. Welcome, everyone, to MACOY's Engagement and Outreach Group's first ever University Speaker Series panel. Today, we have some exciting topics like engineering, medicine, and science, and some amazing panelists here to tell us about what the university life is like and why they got into what they're passionate about. First up, we have engineering, so I'll give it off to Parth to talk a little bit more about that topic.
I'm just going to pass that off to Claire because it's actually...
All right, it's Claire.
Thanks, Krish. I'm excited to introduce today's speakers. We have Ben Goodyear, Mechanical Engineering at U of A, and Malav Naik, Aeronautical Engineering at Prude. Thank you all for joining us today. Jumping right in, what was your college application process like, and how did you choose which school to go to? Ben, do you want to start?
Sure. So I think a good resource for me starting off, I talked to my guidance counselor at my high school, and they were able to introduce me to a lot of the places I need to go to. So essentially just told me to check out the websites for the schools I was looking for. Besides that, I was fortunate to have a lot of universities come and do sort of like almost like a job fair, but for universities at my high school. And from there, I learned a lot. I talked to people from U of A. I talked to people from the University of Calgary, from UBC as well. And from there, I also talked to my local community college. And this may not be the same for every town, but they offered an opportunity to do my first year there and then go to U of A afterwards. And while they actually, came up to me and asked me, I don't think I may have found the opportunity otherwise if I didn't look at it. So I think one thing I might recommend to people who are looking to apply here soon is that to check locally first as well to see if that program offered, because it was an amazing program for me. It allows you to do your first year locally, and then you don't have to necessarily go to especially if you're going to Keano, U of A, there's lots of other universities you can transfer afterwards. But yeah, that was my experience.
That's pretty cool. I never really thought about doing a program locally. Naik, do you have anything to add?
Unfortunately, I don't. I think Ben covered it pretty well. One thing I guess I can add is this is kind of a given, but seeing where your friends are going, I guess, if you're, especially in your first year, if you're moving out of the city, wherever you're from, it can be really tough if there's no one there to kind of support you, especially if you're moving to a different province or a different country. And I think Ben covered it really well there in terms of getting advice or guidance individually, and then, of course, using your friends to kind of see where they're going and having a support network, wherever you yourself end up going. So, I don't think I have too much other than that to add to what Ben had to say there.
That's actually pretty good advice. I suppose going where your friends are would probably make the transition a lot easier. Speaking of transitions, how different do you think university life is from high school life? Is there anything you can do to ease your transition?
I can take this one first since Ben went first last time. I would say university life is completely different than high school. There's a lot less structure, I would say, given to you. In high school, you show up to school at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. every day, and you leave at 3 or 3:30. In university, it's really up to you to kind of figure out your schedule and figure out if you have an 8 a.m. class, if you really want to go to the 8 a.m. class, if that makes sense, because there's no attendance or anything. So it's really up to yourself and the motivating factors that you have within you, that it's kind of makes you get up at 6 in the morning to get ready for an hour-long commute to a class that starts at 8 in the morning when it's pitch black outside in the dead of winter. In that case, I think university life is it may seem harder in terms of like, oh, it's everything's on you, but to me it was really liberating because it really allows you to move at your own pace, even though, semesters go by quick. You can, devote time to homework or extracurriculars or whatever it may be based on your schedule. And you're not bound by, staying in school for 7 or 8 hours like you have to in high school.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I can recall one of my teachers telling me, if you're on time, you're late. If you're early, you're on time, and if you're late, you're in trouble. And that stuck with me for a while, and you're gonna find that sticks with you, or many of you that's gonna stick with you as well. There's a lot less emphasis on, teachers when you're in high school have an obligation to help you, but when you get to university, it's up to you. And there are so many resources available, you might not even realize it at first, but they are there to help you, but only if you want to help yourself. And that's probably one of the biggest differences than high school.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So independence is the biggest change.
Yep, for sure.
I never really
Absolutely.
thought that way. I would have thought having to do your own laundry would be the biggest change.
That too.
That too.
What does a common daily workload look like for you? Ben, do you want to start off again?
Sure. Actually, I think the same teacher who just told me the other previous phrase, he was really influential in telling us, hey, he was pretty straightforward with us. And you may find yourself, depending on what you're doing, spending several hours a day doing homework. And going back to independence, there's always a chance for you to manage your time. And I would recommend the best thing to do because it's going to be a heavy workload, is to focus on getting things done as fast as possible. You're obviously not always going to be able to do things, especially if you're doing things outside of university. If you're involved in any clubs or anything like that, maybe things right away. But as soon as you can do it, do it. I can recall in high school, sticking around after school to finish some work that I had. I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to do it. And that really helped me in university because I did the same thing. I might have ended up going home a little later, but some people who would end up going home or going back to the dorm or whatever would find themselves, because they had to stop what they were doing and then sort of start again. If they found themselves taking longer, and a lot of my friends end up joining me while we were doing this. But yeah, I think we have a question in chat as well. I'm not sure. Did we want to get to those afterwards?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
chat in a minute.
Sure. Milad, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think setting your own schedule, you kind of have, as I mentioned, you kind of have the freedom to do things at your own pace. And I think Ben has a really good point of, staying on top of the things that you have, to do on a weekly basis. Like a workload for me on, a typical daily or weekly workload is really figuring out what sort of classes do I have that day, because schedules vary. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you'll have a different schedule compared to Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then basically just filling out my schedule based on that. If I have long breaks and while I'm at school, I'll try to plan like homework sessions or times to kind of do club work if I'm involved in any of that stuff. So I think by the time it hits like 10 p.m. or something, 9 p.m., I try to stop everything and try to get ready for bed. But once I wake up, whether it's like an 8 a.m. class or something like that, I try to work around my class schedule and kind of the big picture items I need to do that week, like midterms or big reports or something like that. I really just try to put in time to do homework assignments as much as I can, because you have 6 classes. Each class has its own weekly assignment, all due on different days, and it really adds up if you don't manage those properly.
That makes sense. And I like what you said about staying after school. I always find it really hard to get started again. So that makes actually quite a bit of sense. That's probably something I should start doing as well. Now we're gonna check the chat for audience questions. The first one is it important to join clubs in university? Malav, do you want to start?
The answer to that question is, in my opinion, it is very, very important. From my experience, I've been part of two student clubs, one which kind of designed RC aircrafts, and we designed and built them, and then we flew them at competition. And then I'm currently a part of a student group that designs, builds, and launches satellites into space. And they sound really cool, but the biggest thing that I've learned from my time in clubs is that there's so much more to solving problems, working with people, and really just applying what you learn in school that doesn't get taught in classes and labs, that you actually learn by taking part in these clubs. And especially if you're not in the co-op program, being part of clubs will actually put you ahead of people that are actually in co-op programs but not part of clubs, because some of these clubs are doing like really cool stuff. They're really challenging problems, and it's a very rewarding experience when you start a project, you see the end of it, and the learnings that you get are really powerful, I think.
Ben, do you have anything yet? Betty, do you have anything to add?
No, I couldn't have worded it any better. It is important, and you might even find that it's not just, you might even not even find that you're doing really work. You might really enjoy a lot of the things that university has to offer. So please look into it. Even if you don't think for sure you're going to do anything, look into it.
Yeah, for sure.
We should all probably look into programs that help you launch things into space. So that sounds like good advice.
Yeah, check out Albertasat at U of A. That's a shameless plug on my part, but yeah.
Wow, the questions are really starting to roll in. Here's another one. Is engineering as hard as people say it is?
It can be. Like we mentioned earlier, you're every week, most classes are going to have a weekly assignment that you're going to do. Some things are going to come easier to you than others, especially if this is something or if you're interested, but there's some things that you may not feel are totally important to you. It's still important for building a good basis as an engineer. I will not sit here and lie to you. You will find some things difficult, but I will tell you that there's absolutely things that can make it easier. Go into your profs. If you have questions, all of them have office hours that you can go and talk to them. Managing your time well. We all have phones that we have calendars on that we can put in time slots to set aside for work and then set aside time for something else you want to do. But yeah, at some point, you whether you want to admit it or not, there's something that's going to give you difficulty, but there's options out there to get through it.
Yeah, I think Ben put it perfectly. I think one thing I will add is find a group of people that really benefit, or I shouldn't say benefit, but that really support you, and you support them. There's nothing better than struggling through a class, getting to the final exam, getting absolutely demolished morally, coming out of it, and then sharing that grief with other people. And when you see that final exam, final grade, and you see you all passed, you did great, there is no better feeling than seeing yourselves and your homies come through with flying colors. So find yourself a support structure via your friends and your peers, and they're going to help you through school, and they're going to help you through life.
So it's really hard, but it's easier with help.
Absolutely.
That sounds
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
pretty much everything else. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing to live by. What is one thing you knew before going, or sorry, what is one thing you wish you knew before going to university?
I can go first on this one.
Sure.
One thing I wish I knew before I started is 5 years. So I did my mechanical engineering program. I was in the co-op program. Of course, that's 5 years at U of A. 5 years is a long time. You know, a lot of things can change in 5 years. And I thought I had everything planned out, you know, going into the first year of my engineering program. And I didn't realize how much things would change. And if I wish I knew just to be patient and just to like pursue what I wanted to do rather than like looking at other people and seeing what they were doing and trying to replicate that, I think I would have been much better off in my earlier years because once I figured out like, okay, this is what I wanted to do, this is the club I want to be a part of, this is the work I want to do. I had a much better time, you know, or a much easier time, I should say, like getting up in the morning and doing that work. So don't be afraid to let things change, I guess, is one thing that I wish I knew because things change. And your ability to adapt to those changes is what matters the most rather than, you know, replicating what other people are doing.
That makes sense. Ben, do you have anything to add?
No, that was fantastic.
All right. Moving right along. If you guys are school athletes, how busy does it get referring to schedules? Like, how different is it from high school?
I can take this one. I wasn't I wasn't involved in a lot of sports, but I had a lot of friends who were when I went to Keano, and they were pretty accommodating, but you will find that it does put a strain on your schedule. These guys were getting up much earlier than us. They were getting up at least 5 o'clock in the morning to go to Keano to train, and then they were going to school, and then they might have to do some training afterwards. So it will be pretty hard. I don't know how I would compare it to high school, but it's going to be. I mean, to the person who said, "Is it difficult? Does it take up a lot of time?" Well, now it's going to take up more, basically. But it's all about doing something that you're interested in. These guys were fortunate enough; they actually got sports scholarships through it as well, so that's an option if you think you can handle it.
Yeah, I don't think I have too much to add to what Ben said. You know, I played a lot of sports in high school, but that basically stopped when I got to university. And I just, you know, I continued playing recreationally, like just pick up basketball at some points and once or twice a month, but nothing to the level that I did in high school. And that was just like a conscientious decision on my part just to kind of focus more on school. But yeah, if you're playing sports along with, you know, taking a full course load, it's going to be very straining on your schedule. And yeah, I think if that's something that you want to do, then you know, you'll find the time to do it. Um, but like anything, it'll be a strain on your schedule for sure.
I guess that's true with anything, though.
Yeah, even clubs and stuff like that, it'll be a strain on your schedule, but it's something you want to do and something you know you're benefiting from, so you make time for it, right?
I suppose you just have to look at the REAP versus the work that you have to put into it.
Yeah.
In what cases should you go to grad school?
I can answer this one. So I'm currently in grad school. My aeronautical engineering program. I'm taking a master's degree at Purdue University, and I only asked myself one question in order to decide if I wanted to go to grad school or not. And the question was, you know, this is the idea that I'm interested in. Do I want to learn more about it? And if the answer was yes, I was going to pursue grad school. If the answer was no, then no. I think that's the first question, in my opinion, that you should ask is if you want to learn something more and your program isn't providing that knowledge to you in terms of like, whether it's like a concept or whether it's a completely different field, and yeah, pursue grad school, try to, branch out and learn more, and pursue the interests that you have. And because if you're not motivated to learn, you're not going to succeed. And unfortunately, um, it'll, for lack of a better phrase, it'll be a waste of time. So if you're motivated to learn that, then that's all you need. It's just, if you have the intrinsic motivation, then you're going to do great.
That's a cool way to look at it. Do you have anything to add?
No, I'm a little bit away from there, so that's a question I could be asking myself as well. But thank you, Malav.
Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, yeah. I know that's a very common question for I probably when they're gonna ask you when you get to co-op as well.
Yeah.
Personally, even though in co-op you want to sort of emphasize your qualities a lot, I know a lot of people in here are looking to go in this field and they're very unsure of themselves about a lot of things. But I'll tell you right now, regardless of whether or not you're going to see some options in your first year, you're going to be deciding which field do I want to go in. You're still young. You're going to learn a lot about yourself in the next few years of university. The only thing you want to say when you're thinking about where you're going to see yourself in 5 or 10 years is, as long as it's something I'm enjoying doing, whether that's working in the oil industry, which is what I'm currently doing in co-op, or research. You've just finished your grad school and you're going into research department at university. So please always pursue what you enjoy doing, and you'll wind up wherever you want to be.
I think you captured that perfectly, and I hope 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 45 years from now, I'm hoping to, getting up in the morning, I'm hoping to be surrounded by, people that are close to me, and I'm hoping to be getting up and, doing what I love to do. That's, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And I always, a lot of times people ask like, oh, what's like your dream job or your dream company or something like that. I'm like, I don't really have one. I just want to get up every day and work on something cool. That's literally the only motivating factor that I have. And as long as I'm doing that 5 or 10 years from now, I know I've reached my goals, or I've continued to reach my goals, I should say.
Those are some cool ways to look at it. We have a couple more questions left for the time. Can I ask how finding co-op has been? I'm not entirely sure what that
means. Do they mean like how am I enjoying it, or how difficult was it to find a job for co-op?
I have no idea.
I'll talk quickly about both. So it's a little. I'm just entering my first co-op term, so it's a little difficult to tell. But I can tell you right off the bat, it's so far it's been a great environment. People have been really helpful trying to get me sorted for what my experience is going to be like for the next 8 months. And I think as long as you do a little research, I had a lot of people come in and talk in my qualifying year about their experience, and it just so happens they had been from Suncor and they all enjoyed it. So that was one of the main factors I chose Suncor and I pursued it. Finding a job, I had several speakers come in and talk to us and say that they had put out 20-something resumes. They got maybe 7 interviews and they got 1 job. They're gonna tell you only pursue things that you want to do, and I feel like that's sort of misleading. I shouldn't say that, but apply to as much as you can. Wherever you work, you're going to be getting good experience, especially in your first co-op term, about what it's going to be like working as an engineer. There are some fundamental things that you will learn through this process that you're not going to necessarily learn right away at the university. And every engineer you'll talk to, I'm pretty sure, will say, do co-op if you can. Because you start off, once you finish, I believe roughly a year of your co-op term can go towards your 4 years required to be a professional engineer. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it does. But even in that, you'll learn a lot. But yeah, I think that answered it.
I hope so.
Yeah. I wasn't sure which one they were asking for, but that's what I'll tell you.
I think we have time for one more question. So, in university, walk us through your daily schedule or your average daily schedule.
So I can answer this one first. My average daily schedule is I wake up around 8 in the morning, get myself some food, and then I try to, actually I usually have classes in the morning, so I try to hit those. And then my afternoons up until dinner time are homework time. So whether it's, homework or like whether it's assignments, whether it's supports, whether it's something else, projects, I do that. And then in the evenings, I typically have my meetings for my extracurricular clubs or my extracurricular activities. Sorry about that. So in the evenings, I have time set aside for that. And then at night, probably like between 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., I have some time set aside to just kind of wind down. That's kind of like the buffer time that I have, where it's like if I can wind down, watch some YouTube or Netflix or something like that, I'll do it. Or if school's really busy and I need to use that time for like assignments or projects or whatever it may be, then I use that time for that. But that's typically what my average day looks like. Gets a little bit more strained during midterms and finals, but that's typically what it looks like.
Would you like to continue that?
Yeah, no, he covered all the bases. Manage your time. We cannot stress this enough. From personal experience, I tell you right now, all-nighters, not worth it. You're gonna think I can guarantee you're gonna have one thought when you're in your first year of university. You think, I can stay up and study for this class, maybe a little bit longer, and then it might be worth it because I was doing something else and I got caught behind or something like that. Get your sleep. It's really important, and try to maybe spend some other time you would have done otherwise to try to catch up. Manage your time. You shouldn't be caught in this situation in the first place, but it may happen a few times. I can't stress it enough.
So procrastinating is just all around bad.
Yes. So you may feel like your day's kind of busy, but it's better than, don't push it off.
And I like what you said about prioritizing sleep. Most people I know don't do that. I don't even.
I can tell you right now, I haven't done it either, but I wish I had. I wish I had.
Yeah. Last night I was up till 2 finishing my book. So it's probably a habit I should get out of before I graduate college, before I graduate high school. Glad I have 3 more years left. That unfortunately we have run out of time for today. We would like to thank you both for joining us, and another thanks to everyone who is at home watching this. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and we are grateful for each of you for your input on helping us with our future decisions.
No problem.
I'll head back over to Krish.
Yeah, awesome. So thank you, Mala. Thank you, Ben, for an amazing first topic of today. All the guests watching right now, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick 15-minute break, maybe grab some food, grab some water, just chillax for a bit. And then at 2:45, we're heading on to our next topic, which is science and medicine. So if anyone wants to thank Malav and Ben in the chat, go ahead. Other than that, we're on to our 15-minute break.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us. I always like doing these because I was on the other side, not too long ago, well, 5 years ago, I guess, and I was coming out of high school looking for advice going into university, and always nice to kind of pay back after I've run through the gauntlet of mechanical engineering. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.